Welcome to the Two Car Guys podcast. We're here at Savoy Museum. I'm John. This is Adam, and this is Mary. And Mary is the helps with the curating of the collection. And what was your role?
I'm actually the research assistant.
Research assistant. Yeah, exactly. So, we're going to go over a couple things, and today's going to be a great episode, I think.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, the Savoy is a car museum in Cartersville, Georgia. And so I was telling John earlier today, I mean, I kind of stumbled across this place by accident, but as soon as I saw it was a car museum, I had to stop by.
Absolutely.
But it wasn't really until I came up here for the first time that I started to understand and get a little bit more background on it. But
Right.
Mary, tell us, so how many acres does Savoy sit on?
I think it's around 37.
Okay.
Wow.
And the main building here is a little over 60,000 square feet.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
The storage building in the back where the rest of the collection is housed is a little over 30,000 square feet,
And you mentioned that earlier. About how many cars are in the collection?
around 120.
And that's the core collection, though, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. And so they have traveling collections that move through here depending on.
We have 5 different galleries in here.
Mhm.
One of the galleries is designated to just cars that are owned by Savoy. Each one of the other 4 galleries, once a month, one of those swaps out.
Yeah.
So right now we're sitting in the midst of what's in Chip's garage, Chip Foos's cars.
Yeah.
They'll be here. This will run for a total of 4 months. But every month, something new comes into the building.
That's
That is
pretty
so
awesome.
cool. Yeah.
So what's interesting, and they told us this when we were walking around, right?
Yep.
So this, I mean, if you've never been here before, this is kind of off the beaten path a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this was all, according to, when we were talking earlier, this was all trees before, right?
Right. It was a field and trees, right?
Well, this actually was a working farm
Okay.
from a family. It was they did a lot of produce here.
Okay.
The family is still in the local area. They're still running a dairy farm, but this became sort of like watermelons, tomatoes, and things
Nice.
Oh,
like
wow.
that.
Okay.
Okay.
The dairy farm continued on. This piece of property sort of went into disuse. And so ultimately, they were able to purchase the property here, and this is where the museum
Yeah.
is.
Well,
Yeah.
and Savoy is a pretty unique name.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. So I just thought it was a last name. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, it must be the Savoy Collection or a Savoy, something like that. But that's not the case, right?
No, you saw it out front. There's
Yeah.
a real wreck of a 1954 Plymouth Savoy.
Yeah.
That was actually owned by the people that own the property. It was purchased by the gentleman who was the farmer here. His wife was originally from Colorado.
Yeah.
She had not been out to visit her family in a long period of time.
Oh, wow.
He bought the car, and a group of the family took it out to Colorado.
Wow.
Came back here. Of course, it just got left on the property.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
while they were clearing the land, that's when they found it. And that's what they
awesome.
decided that became the name of the museum.
Yeah, and
That's
it's
so
almost like
cool.
an art installation too, because it's the first thing you see when you park in the parking lot.
Absolutely. Well, when we pulled up and parked, I saw the car and I was just like, that's an interesting piece of art. Because
Yeah.
it's like, it's just this thing but it's chained off. And I was like,
Yep.
wow, that is such a cool thing, but I don't understand it, and then we do the little tour and you're telling the story and I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's how this place got the name. What an awesome way to do it, right?
And so when they found it,
You
there
know?
was a tree growing out of
Yeah.
it. And so when we placed it on the grounds, we've replanted the tree.
Oh, that's
And
And so
phenomenal.
it will be back to what it was.
I started to think like maybe that's the exact spot where the car was on the
No,
field,
no,
like
no.
that would have been crazy.
would've been really cool, right?
Yeah.
Just
No,
underneath it right
Just,
there.
like, right
that
there,
did not work out that
Oh,
way.
yeah.
But
That's
that
so
is
cool.
the car, and that's how we got the name.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So, I mean, this is a really gorgeous building. Right?
Absolutely.
I mean, just the shape of it, some of the features of it, like the dining hall's got a wheel and tire in the top, right?
Mhm.
But it's a really, really cool building. What was the inspiration behind building this building?
Well, the guy who did it, the architect who did it, his name was Frank Bergman. He
Okay.
did the booth and he did the Tellus. Unfortunately, he died before this building was finished. He had
yeah.
designed it, he just did not live long enough to see it completed.
Yeah.
But he wanted to have more of a European feel, so
Yeah.
he traveled all over Europe. Then he went through the U.S. and that's what he was trying to capture. So we have the tile floors and
Yeah.
we have the soaring
Yeah.
ceiling here. Everything that he was really trying to avoid as many square corners as
Right.
possible, so
Absolutely.
that a lot of the walls are rounded.
I mean, if he was still alive today, I'd be begging him to design my garage. I'm just saying,
It's
wow,
gorgeous.
just an amazing, amazing.
Well, just to
design
point
this
out
is.
that when we walk, if you go around, you'll see that there's what looks like wood paneling here. Now, that's not contact paper and it's
Yeah.
not veneer. That was all hand painted.
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
And so on one of the columns down where the movie cars are, the artist signed. It took
Signed
them
it.
3 months to do the
Wow.
inside of the building.
That's crazy.
You know, one of the other things I saw too, like one of the doors, you wouldn't even know there's a door there.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like this is how we get the cars in and out. And I'm like, where's the
Yep.
door?
It just
It's so
blends in,
awesome.
it blends into the background.
And I mean, there's a lot of cool features. Like they have a movie theater in here where they
Yeah.
show obviously car themed movies,
I mean,
and it's got a turntable for a car in it, which is absolutely the
mean,
coolest thing ever.
yeah. This is a car guy's dream.
It really is.
It really is.
So, I mean, we talked about the floors. They're gorgeous, right?
Mm-hmm.
But how do you prevent these floors from getting barked up and just all cracked and everything?
That gets a little tricky, especially like when we had Bigfoot in here.
Yeah.
That was very, very tricky to ensure that nothing got cracked. And so there were some special things that they did because they have a special jack when they have to lift up the trucks. We had plywood
Right.
down. We were very careful
Wow,
about that.
that's awesome.
We don't drive cars in the building. We use what's called a stringo. If you're
Okay.
familiar with stringo,
Yeah.
it sort of
Not,
works
but
like
it's,
it sort of works like a pallet jack. You put the car in neutral and you lift up the 2 front tires, and one person on it can drive the car in.
Wow,
You
that's
can
Pretty cool.
position
I've seen
it.
one before.
That's
Yeah.
super cool.
So we don't drive them in. So for air quality, there's no fumes that go on.
Right.
Right.
All the cars we diaper the cars with pig mat
Okay.
because everything has fluids in them,
Right.
Yeah.
and they're going to leak.
Yeah.
And so using magnets, we will go up under the car and we will diaper any area.
That's
And then
pretty
when the
awesome.
diaper gets full and it leaks on the floor, the guys will come and change the diaper.
And so the cars,
Housekeeping comes and
these
cleans the
things,
floor.
they're treated better than some pets.
So,
you know?
so there's no
Some
pants.
people.
Yeah.
So there's no pants of kitty litter or oil dry.
Yeah,
And that
that's
was
awesome.
that was also part of the thing, that because this was going to be like celebrating the art of the car.
Right.
So we
Yeah.
have the beautiful floors, and a gentleman was in here and he said, "This is the floor in here is more indicative of a European
100%.
Yeah, it's
European
beautiful.
museum."
I don't know if the camera's picking up, but it is absolutely gorgeous here.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
immaculate.
It's immaculate.
Yeah.
Everything is just top notch. I think
And
that's so awesome.
if you were to go down to the booth or up to the tellus, you would find that same level of
Yep.
quality. When they do everything, it is always done to the nth degree.
That's awesome. And this museum has only been here
It was
2
2
years.
2 years in December.
Yep.
Wow, that's so crazy. And you would think this has been here so much longer. It's just
Yeah.
so well taken care of and such a good collection. And then all the different cars you see, it's just, I would think this has been at least 10 years,
Yeah.
just coming in. I think it's just awesome.
Now you said this building's what, 60,000 square
A
feet?
little over 60,000 square
And then
feet,
you've got the storage building.
which is
Yeah.
around 30,000.
And then you just built the
The
pavilion,
Pavilion, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It looks like there's a lot of extra space. Are there plans to do other things on the grounds?
Well, we joke that we have the $1 million lawn.
Okay.
And and when this was being built, it was watching them do the ground prep and thought, why, are they going through all this trouble? But the lawn is designed. We do car shows.
Yeah.
Yep.
You can drive on the lawn.
Wow.
And in the fall, when we had our car show, it had rained.
Yeah.
They brought the cars up on the lawn. When they drove them off, you would have no idea that the cars
Wow.
were there.
no-
So
no
it was all the ground
sinkholes or
prep.
mud and all that
It
stuff.
is designed that we can load this all up with cars, and when you pull
That's
them
so
off,
cool.
you'll have no idea that there were cars parked
Okay.
all over
Hopefully
the
we
lawn.
can come back and make one of the car shows.
Yeah.
I think that would be
I
amazing.
believe it's August 17th
Okay.
is going to be the next one.
Try to make it, man. That'd
Yeah.
be super
I
cool.
unfortunately will be at Car Week in Monterey.
Unfortunately. Y'all hear this? Unfortunately.
Unfortunately, I will be at Car Week in
I'm
Monterey.
not jealous at all.
So, Mary, tell us, what was you've been here, what now, a year?
A little bit over a year, yeah.
What has been your favorite exhibit?
The one that just left, which would have been the rolling sculptures.
Okay.
And those
Okay.
were all the pre-war European cars, 1930.
Yeah.
We had
Nice.
the Delage, the Delahaye, the SS1,
Oh, that's super cool.
the
That's
Bugatti,
really-
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Alfa
Yep.
Romeo, little
Wow.
BMW race car. I'd
Nice.
say that was my favorite because of the beauty of the cars.
Yeah.
Like if you look at a 1930s American car when they were making the transition, say like the Zephyr or even our Airflow over there,
Yeah.
and then you look at what came out of Europe in the 30s,
Yeah.
and the design and the engineering,
Yeah.
so much further ahead of us.
Yeah.
And you know what's really funny? So when you walk into Savoy, actually when you drive by it, right? There's this huge sculpture out front talking about like artwork, and it looks like a hood ornament.
Yep.
And we've kind of lost the art of the hood
Oh,
ornament.
I know. Yeah.
And there are so many of these cars in here that have these really ornate and beautiful hood ornaments. And
Yep.
I didn't even realize that that wasn't like off of a car. I thought that that was like a hood ornament from a car that I'd never heard of, you
Yeah.
know, and turns out it's not. But
Super cool.
yeah, and it also, what we found out today, it's not light either, right?
Yeah.
I think it's like 5 tons of stainless steel.
That's
Yeah,
it.
that's it.
And the lady
No,
who
that's
did
awesome.
it was Linda Brunker. Her studio is in LA.
Wow.
She happened to be in Barcelona when the lockdown hit. She had to build that in Barcelona, Spain,
And ship it?
and ship it here
Oh,
to the Port
wow.
of Savannah. So
What?
she had to scramble to get workshop space and
Yeah.
the tools, but she built it. She got it to us just in time. It
Yeah.
arrived just right before the museum opened.
So I
And,
think,
and guys, it's absolutely gorgeous.
yeah, it's really
I
cool.
mean, you'll have to see it. We're gonna post some pictures of it. If you get a chance to come out here, you need to come check out this
Yeah.
museum. This place is awesome.
So randomly, why Cartersville?
Well, because there was a family here locally in town that were involved in business.
Hmm?
Their great passions were Western art and cars. Now, this
Yeah.
is while they were in business.
Yeah.
In terms of the Western art, they were collecting Western art before Western art was a cool thing to do. They just collected it because they liked it.
Yeah.
Right.
They built up the business. At some point, they came along and they sold out the business, and they decided, these are the things we love. So they built the booth,
Wow.
and they
Yeah.
housed their collection in there, and that has since grown. Up the street was the Wyman. It used to be called the Wyman Mineral Museum. Very small little
Right.
museum.
Right.
They took that over. They made that into the Tellus.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then finally, the last thing was for cars.
Yeah.
And so they already had a car collection going.
Yeah.
And so they decided, let's do the museum, and it houses our collection of cars. But then working with Ken Gross, the idea was you can park everything that you own in here,
Yeah.
and people will come once
Yeah.
and they'll love it, and there's no reason to come back.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you constantly rotate exhibits, you
Correct.
give people a reason to come back. And
Absolutely.
so of the 4 galleries that are here, we have the Savoy, which we have 5 in total. The Savoy Gallery stays pretty stable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the other 4 galleries swaps out every 30 days.
Yeah.
So as a
Wow.
docent, every 30 days, it's a whole new crop of cars that you have to learn.
Yeah,
That's
and I was telling,
awesome.
so I've got a membership up here, and I was telling a friend of mine, you know, I come up here pretty often,
Yeah.
and somebody was like, "Why?" And I was like, "Because it's never the same things."
Yeah.
I mean, I was just here for the, you know, the conversation with Foose, and none of the women in racing cars were here.
Right.
Yeah.
They came in right after that.
Yeah.
That's
So I mean,
awesome.
I didn't even see that till we walked in today,
Yeah.
and then saw the dragster in the front, and that was a pretty interesting story about the dragster too. So
That's Shirley Muldowney's car. It was her last pass dragster. In 2003, she did her last run. She actually got her license in 1965. That's when
Wow.
she started professionally
That's awesome.
driving.
yeah,
Now, towards the end, she was not driving that much.
Right.
Right.
So 2003, this was the end. That is the car that she took, and
Oh,
she
that's
ran
awesome.
Yeah.
limited number of races. She did 327 miles an hour in that car on a quarter mile.
That's it.
that's it.
That's
You
it.
know, light
Now,
work.
Wow. Light work.
so now to go for that, now that class, the top fuel and funny cars, they don't drive the quarter mile anymore.
Right.
They have shrunk them down to 1,000 feet.
Yeah.
And right now, the top record holder, as far as I know, still is Brittany Force at 338 miles an hour
Yeah.
in
Wow.
1,000 feet.
That's
1,000 feet.
awesome.
But Shirley was here about a month ago. She walked in the building. The first thing she did is she climbed in the car.
Yeah.
So, but I mean,
Nice.
Shirley started in drag racing when it was a boys' club.
Oh, very much a boys' club.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Don Gartlitz admitted that, and even though he signed the license to let her drive, he said, this was a sport that we started.
Yeah.
He goes, and now there's women in the sport
Yeah.
and they're beating us. And someone said,
Yeah.
but you signed the license. And he just sort of laughed like, yeah, I signed the
So
license.
he probably got a lot of controversy for bringing her
Right.
in back then.
Probably got a lot of
Yeah.
flack for it, and probably maybe at the time didn't think she would ever get to where she was.
Yeah.
But when she qualified at one point to get her license, it was in a gas dragster, and she set the record
Wow.
Nice.
when she
Wow.
was going just to get her license.
That's awesome.
And they gave her the license, but there was a caveat. Well, you can't really participate in a real professional event. You can drive in all the little local things,
Right.
but not the big stuff. And
Oh,
she,
wow.
I mean, she
broke the
had
doors open, man.
She
That's
did.
awesome.
But she's got
That is
one,
awesome.
and you've got a few of them here. She won quite a few awards.
We have her 18 Wallies here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so she
That's-
was gracious
that's
enough to
super
loan
cool.
them to us. Yeah.
That is
Oh,
awesome.
she was a very, very good driver.
Yeah.
And the guys, she was serious competition.
Yep.
And finally, what happened is the NHRA realized that if you brought a woman into the race, you filled the stands.
Yeah.
And so, as
Yeah.
much as they fussed, she was good for the business.
Oh, very
Yeah.
good.
So tell us. We'll ask you two wrap up questions.
Okay.
Right. Tell us really quick. What is we know your favorite installation or your favorite thing that's come through here. What's your favorite car
Of
that's
all
come
the
through
ones
here?
that we have,
Yeah.
you mean if they said you can take anyone
If you
home?
if you could take it home with you tonight.
We have a 1964 truck. Nothing special about it. It's like an aqua blue.
Okay.
Oh,
It is
pretty
not
color.
in perfect museum condition. I mean, you see all the dents and the scratches, but if you pop open the hood, I could stand in there and work on my engine. That's how much
That's
room is
awesome.
in the
I
engine
love it.
compartment. There are no electronics, but it does have factory air.
Yeah.
It's just a good, basic, reliable piece of transportation. I mean, I
That's
love
awesome.
a lot of the cars that are here. I'm glad that, sometimes I do get a chance to drive them.
Yeah.
But if you said, take it home and be your daily driver, I would take
That's
the
the one
truck
you would
over
take.
everything
That's
else.
awesome.
So the last question would be, what is the one thing you'd really like to see come through here?
Yeah.
Ooh. Well, for me personally, I'd love to see a collection of John Forster's race cars.
Absolutely. That would be
Starting
super
from
cool.
and I was just watching
Like,
him talking about his museum from the very beginning all the way back. And,
ditto,
and
yeah.
Yeah, that'd be
he is
super
my
cool.
favorite all-time driver. I
That's
would love to
awesome.
see a collection of him and then have him come like Chip did and do a presentation.
That would be super cool.
I don't know that we could ever pull that off
maybe we'll get
because
him
of
on
his
here.
schedule.
Right.
I would
That would
love
be
to see
awesome.
John Force here. So, John, if you're listening, please come.
Come on, man. Do it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for
Thank you
today.
so
We
much.
really appreciate it. I mean, you've been amazing. So
Absolutely.
this has been really great. And I'm going to continue to come up here and probably
Yeah.
drag John up here a few times. So
Oh,
I'm
please
definitely
do.
coming back.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
Well, let me know when you're coming around, and I'll come out here. And anything that's new, I'll tell you what we got, give you the highlights on them, and fill you in on what's coming up.
Maybe we'll get you to let us sit in some of the cars next time.
Now,
That's a tough one, right?
That you'd have to go to my boss to get the.
There you
There
go.
it is.
There
They
you
will
go.
let me in some of them because I work here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely nothing that's on loan. Well, sometimes if it's on loan, I can sit in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you'll have to
Oh,
ask
that's
Bruce
awesome.
about that.
We'll get the special permission.
Yeah.
One of the times I came up here, they had a Lamborghini Countach and a Ferrari Testarossa and a Maserati all sitting in the far room.
Nice.
And I walked in, I was like, if they just let me sit in that car.
Yeah. The Countach is just,
Yeah.
It's
It's one of those cars that, yeah. But anyways, thank you everybody.
Yeah.
And don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with another special guest.
Absolutely.
Welcome back to Car Guys fans. As promised, we have another special guest here at the Savoy. So again, I'm Adam. This is John, and
What's up,
this is Bruce.
Yeah, Bruce Patton.
Hey,
So Bruce, thank you so much for joining us today. We had a wonderful conversation with Mary earlier, and she told us kind of the history about Savoy, how it came to be, the name, a little bit about some of the exhibits that have gone through here. But tell everybody your role here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the official title is Director of Curatorial Services,
Okay.
but I always like to say curator because
Yeah.
much easier. And
Sure.
so what I do is I, along with our executive director and our director of development, we put together our plans for the whole year and
Oh,
then
wow.
Wow.
and probably about 18 months out on what different exhibits we're going to go ahead and put out. So, one of the things we think about are those themes that we want to talk about
Right,
and
right.
what cars will fit those themes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so you would have had a key part in bringing like Chip Foose and his collection in, right?
exactly. So
That's
you know
super awesome, man.
that really it went back to you meet a lot of people when you go
Oh,
to
yeah.
different car
Yep.
shows and that,
Absolutely.
and so through Brian Fuller,
Oh, yeah.
we had met Brian, and we had done an exhibit with Brian, and so
Sweet.
Brian had brought in Chip for one of his evening events.
Cool.
Nice.
And so we got to meet Chip, and we were talking to Chip, and we said, "Hey, Chip, what do you think about doing an exhibit with your cars?
Yeah.
Not the cars you built, but what about
Your
an exhibit with
personal
your
cars.
personal
Yeah,
cars?"
absolutely.
And he goes, "Well, nobody's ever done that before.
Yeah.
It's like,
Nice.
oh, we ought to do it then."
Yeah.
And so it really worked out. Now
That is
now
super
Chip
cool,
is a
man.
good friend of the museum.
That's
Oh,
awesome.
that's awesome, man.
So
Yeah.
so
He
Yeah.
he mentioned in the evening with Chip that he was thinking about moving and potentially moving to Georgia.
Wow.
yeah, that's what he's been talking about.
Yeah.
So
Tell him
we'll-
come hang out with us, man. I'd love to see Chip at a car show.
That's
Oh,
right.
I grew up, Chip was one of my heroes in the car world, man.
Oh yeah.
And I grew up just listening to him and just loving watching all his little car drawings
Yeah.
because I drew cars when I was younger, and that kind of led into everything. So art and then to the cars and all that stuff. And man, wow.
I was just telling
bet
Mary
he's larger
earlier,
than
I used to watch Overhaul
Yep.
Oh,
and
yeah,
he'd
I did
sketch
too.
the car before they
Yep.
built it.
That's what
And
I
I'd be
thought was
sit-
so
well,
amazing.
I'd be sitting with my friends and I'd be like, he's doing it in pen. That's not even what he's known for.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, wait till you go back and look in our storage facility.
Yeah.
Eric, who's our collections manager,
Yeah.
he asked Chip if he'd just sign his workbench, and of course Chip went way
It went
over.
way above.
Oh yeah,
but-
yeah.
above
We're
and
looking
beyond.
over there, and we just see he's like scratch. You're like, what is he doing? And we'll show you the picture. He
man.
drew like a car and all
that's
this stuff
awesome.
instead of just
That
signing
is
his name.
awesome,
So
man.
That's awesome.
No,
Yeah.
he's super nice guy.
That's cool.
So you guys have had a lot of collections come through here. I've been here for
Yeah.
some of them where you had the Pirelli collection. That was pretty cool.
That was really cool. Yeah,
The
Yeah.
Bigfoot just left here.
Bigfoot left.
Yeah.
Yep.
You had the Fat with the fins.
Yeah. So we did Fabulous Fins.
I really
Nice.
like that one.
Yeah, that was cool because we turned the cars around so you
Yep.
could see the fins first,
Yeah.
instead of.
And then
is super
one of
cool,
my
man.
favorite ones that you guys have had here was the classic racers,
Oh yeah, we did factory drag cars. Is that the one you
the
mean?
vintage racers, the old, the old school with like the wooden tire or the wooden wheels.
Oh yeah, we
and-
did fast brass.
Yes,
Fast brass.
that
Yeah.
was
cool, man.
super cool.
So each time you have something like that, you have to come up with a name, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So
that's sometimes that's
I
hard.
bet. Yeah, man. I can only
yeah,
imagine.
because it was like kind of go to Lisa, our marketing person, and say, "Oh, what do you think of this?" Or
yeah,
really.
start bouncing
yeah.
ideas
Yeah,
off
we start-
everybody in the
yeah,
building.
And
Yeah.
Tom's another good one
Yeah.
for coming up with
No, that's
ideas.
awesome, man.
So you do that, and then you got to have a description because I don't know if you noticed, but we put a description along with how long that exhibit's going to be.
Yeah.
Out for people to see. Why did we even come up with that theme? So-
It's like the personalized tag thing. You know,
Yep.
it's like so his car, he's got not stirred. And it's an Aston Martin, and then so I had to get something to match. So mine's shaken, and so now we've got shaken, not stirred. If we park
my
together,
gosh,
so it's just it's fun stuff like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now the really funny story is, so he lives in Alabama. I live here in Georgia.
Yeah.
And I was at a car show 2 weekends ago, and this guy pulls up next to me and asks and rolls his window down. He says, "I've got shaken. I'm going to pull up next to you and I'm going to take a picture."
Yep.
And it turns out the guy's name is also John.
oh my
yeah.
gosh.
And I was like, what are the
so it's
odds of
John
that?
and an Aston, and it's
What are
just
the odds
awesome,
of that?
man.
Oh.
So one of your current collections right now is the movie cars.
Exactly. Yeah. So we worked with Wayne Carini. So we've met Wayne through
Yeah.
the years. He's loaned us several cars.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was talking to him, and I told him, well, we're thinking about doing movie cars. And I go, I know you have the Rain Man car.
Yeah.
And he goes, yeah, I got the Rain Man car, and I've got a Morgan
Yeah.
also. And he goes, yeah, we can do that. He goes, I know some other people who have some
Yeah,
cars
so
too. I
He
go,
he
Yeah.
brought his buddies in
Yeah,
too,
so
and now
he-
it's this cool
right.
collection. That's
Exactly.
awesome,
yeah.
man.
So then, Ray Evernham loaned us his
Yeah.
Yeah.
car. So, there was a lot of really cool.
Yeah, like I said,
Cool
those weren't here when I came up for the evening with Chip, right? Those and the
Oh, yeah,
women
had
in
the
racing.
rolling sculptures
Yes.
in there. Yeah.
They just came in, so I hadn't seen that collection yet. And
Right.
like 2 days ago, I was just having a conversation with a bunch of my friends that there's not really a movie recently or a TV show recently that like the car was the star of the show,
Yeah.
right? Like the
Yeah.
Batmobile or even like the Ghostbusters car, right?
Come on, Hollywood, step
yeah,
it up. Let's
like
go,
the General
guys.
Lee, right? I
know?
mean, we haven't had a car that's been the star,
The
that's
hero
been the
car.
iconic
Yeah.
hero
Yeah.
car in
Yeah.
a while, you know?
Yep.
So it was really cool to see that.
Yeah, that's super cool.
So Mary was telling us that, I mean, this is we're currently sitting in the core collection room, right?
Yep,
So these are the cars that Savoy owns.
Yeah, so this is the Savoy collection, and so this gallery, we rotated occasionally. Like in the summer, we actually put in convertibles, pulled
Yeah,
out
that's
all
cool.
the hard tops, put in convertibles only.
Awesome.
But we keep probably 3 or 4 of the cars that are kind of in here all the time, but then we'll rotate
Right.
other
Right.
ones out of our collection. So we have just under about 120 cars in our permanent
That is
collection.
awesome,
So-
Yeah.
man. That is awesome.
So you have 120 cars in your permanent collection.
Correct.
What do you look for when you're buying a car versus reaching out to people to say, hey, bring your collection to us and share it
Right.
with us versus, hey, I want to keep that car in our collection?
Yeah, so in the very beginning, we had a list of cars,
Okay.
Right.
like the Lincoln Zephyr, the Mark II. There was just some cars that were just those iconic cars that
So like
we
bucket
really want to
list
be part.
cars.
Right.
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 Yeah.
And so we've slowly, over these 3 years that we've been open, well, 2.5 years we've been open, we've been kind of
Coring it
getting
down.
those,
Yeah.
adding those. And then, so now we just started making another list as
Yeah.
far as one. So, like we got a DeLorean.
Oh, yeah.
We
Oh,
had
Yep.
nice.
that,
I
Super
saw
cool.
that.
and so, our thought is that, hey, we want to buy cars that in even 50 years from now,
They're
people are
relevant.
going to,
Yeah.
exactly. So,
Absolutely.
80s, 90s, even 2000s cars, we're even looking at
Really?
purchasing now because
Okay.
we're
That's
thinking
pretty
in
cool.
50 years,
Yeah.
these 2000s, people will go, oh, you remember that car?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah.
That's
And,
super cool,
and
man.
the other thing we know is a lot of those vehicles like the Duesenbergs and,
Yep.
and those
Yeah.
are collected by private collectors and other
Right.
museums.
Yeah.
So we know we can borrow those cars. So we're kind of looking more,
Something that's going to sustain the collection.
yeah,
Right.
something that,
Yeah.
we don't need to spend all that money on
Right.
a Duesenberg.
Right.
Or like
Where-
a Hudson, because you guys had a Hudson in here once.
Yeah, so we got a Hudson Hornet.
Yeah.
Oh, yep.
That
So
was a
that's
pretty cool car
That
to
is
see in real
cool.
life.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
yeah. And it was fun because we actually made it look like Doc Hudson,
Yeah.
from
Yep.
the Cars
Nice,
movie.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and speaking
I
of
bet
that,
the
Jay,
kids love that.
yeah, Jay Ward's supposed to be here along with Wayne for our movie cars.
Very
Nice.
cool.
I think
That's
it's
super
August
cool, man.
3rd. So Jay from, I don't know if you know him, but he's from Pixar.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's going to come. We're going to bring Lightning McQueen.
Nice,
Oh, wow.
man.
Yeah.
Now, is that
and-
the guy that owns it locally, the
So
Lightning
cool.
McQueen car?
No, this is the one we're getting from Charlotte,
Okay.
from
Okay.
the NASCAR Hall of Fame.
Oh, very cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
So it was what Pixar uses, or they
Gotcha.
use for
Right.
when they have
An
an
event.
Yeah.
want
Yeah.
Lightning McQueen there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Because
Yeah.
there's a guy here in Georgia who's got a Mustang,
Right.
and it's got like the Lightning McQueen eyes on the
oh
front.
yeah,
Yeah.
And he's got like the soundtrack
It's a
playing
hit at
on
the
it.
car shows with
It's a
kids,
hit.
man. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
anything like that you can, bring in and kids see it and they're like, oh,
Yeah, it's a
man,
hit.
yeah.
to
When
see
we
kids light up is awesome.
we did the Cars movies.
Yep.
You guys got to see our
Yeah.
theater,
Yeah.
right? So so we have a car movie every month, but we were actually
That's awesome.
doing in the summer. We try to do kids movies.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
did the Cars kind of
Yeah.
trilogy, and we got that
Yeah.
Lightning McQueen one, the Ford
Absolutely.
Yep.
Mustang that the guy has.
That's
So,
super cool.
I'll tell you one car movie I'd love to see up here would be Ford versus Ferrari.
Oh, yeah.
oh yeah, we did that one.
Yeah.
I think it was a year or so ago.
I was
Yeah.
out of town when you guys
That
were
is
doing it.
awesome.
I was like, oh man, that'd be the greatest movie to see up
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, so we had that Ford GT. This was 2019. We put that
Yep.
in the theater, and then borrowed a Ferrari from a guy I knew. So
That is so cool,
so we
man.
put
That's
those
pretty cool.
inside the theater. So
Is there any car that's on your punch list that is, unusually hard to track down that you guys want to own in the collection?
well, there's one we want to own in the collection that, unfortunately, I was saying some of the expensive cars.
Yeah.
It'd be great for us to have a Tucker sometime.
Yeah.
And so
You guys had one come through here though, right? But it was
we did.
Yeah, it was
So
on
that-
loan.
It was on loan. Yeah,
Yeah.
from Howard.
But that's a
Kroplik
that's
out
a
of New
core
York.
car you want to put into the collection. Of the
Yeah, I
Tucker.
think that would
That's
probably be
super
one
cool.
that someday, if we saved up enough money, we
Absolutely. Yeah. No,
we
that's
could try
awesome,
and get
man.
one of
Yeah.
those. That was
Yeah.
Because I'd never seen one in person before, and I think it was green, right?
it was green,
And it was beautiful, but it was so interesting to see. And a lot of these cars are too. Very interesting to see the level of detail and the the things that people thought about, like the the thatched roof in some of these
Yeah.
cars, and
Oh, right.
on the
like
real wood on
Dragon.
some of them.
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
pretty unreal.
It's
Yeah.
awesome, man. I mean, looking at some of the cars just in the collection, like this one right here, it's got the hood ornament and stuff. And we were talking about that, and the hood ornament for the museum is just an
Right.
awesome nod to that. You know?
Yeah, thanks.
Just super cool stuff, man.
Yeah, that Tucker, that was one that was restored by the great grandsons of Preston Tucker.
Oh wow.
So yeah, Sean and Mike
Yeah.
Tucker restored that, and they had all the drawings,
Yeah,
and so they made that as like the most accurate kind of
That's
Tucker.
unreal.
that is so cool.
So
Yeah.
So, a little bit about yourself. What's your car collection look like? Your personal collection?
I have two.
Okay.
So I have a 427 convertible Corvette. So
There you go.
Nice.
in
Yep.
in 2013, so the last year of the C6,
Yeah.
they put the LS7 in a convertible. So
Nice.
it's basically a Z06.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A convertible. The only difference is it has steel frame instead of aluminum
Right.
Yeah.
frame. So I have one of those, and then I have a 57 Chevy.
Oh
Okay.
yeah.
Awesome, man.
I
All right.
drive both of those back
Yeah.
and forth to work.
Yeah, I
you
think
know.
we
That's
saw you
awesome,
pulling
man.
up in the yellow Corvette
Yellow
today.
Yeah,
Corvette
today was
That's
a
beautiful,
nice
man.
day.
Oh,
Such
today's
a
a
nice
convertible.
gorgeous day.
outside.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And such a nice car, man.
Oh,
Yeah.
thanks.
That is awesome.
yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
fun. It's
We,
So-
we talk about the collection all the time, like our personal cars and
Yeah.
some of the stuff. And I'm trying to pick my next car to add to the collection. You know, me and my wife, we look at different cars that we just truly like. But the Corvettes have always had a soft spot for us. We've been through a few C8s now.
A few.
Yeah.
And I've got another one kind of on order, and he's like, "No, man, you've already had you've had the Corvettes. It's time to do something
Yeah.
different." Would you ever step away from your Corvette for a different car? Like, what would that car look like?
Oh wow. Let's see. I mean, I see so many cars
Yeah,
being
I mean,
here,
yeah,
you know,
I mean,
that,
yeah,
that all the time I think, well, that'd be kind of cool
Yeah.
to have, you know,
Yeah.
and you know, driving the 57 because I mean, it's not been resto modded. It still
Right.
has, you know, it's got a low profile blower and 350, you know, four
Nice,
speed.
man.
All right.
You know,
Nice,
so
yeah.
it's not fuel injected or anything like
Absolutely.
that. But you know, seeing just some of the lines on these older cars, and if it was resto modded, so you
Yeah.
could drive it every day.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
I
That
think you'd go that
would-
route, so it'd be a little bit more comfortable. Like the
Yeah.
features would be a
Yeah.
little better, like air
There's
conditioning
that.
and stuff.
Exactly.
You know?
Right.
Because I used to own
Yeah.
I used to own the older Corvettes, you know, so I had
Right.
a 68 and a 69 was a big block, one was a small,
Yeah.
Right.
small block. And so my wife always got tired of me smelling like hydrocarbons
Yep.
whenever I come in, right?
Yep.
You know, because he's like, oh, God, you're out there with that car. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, fine. So
Sorry.
so that's why I bought the newer one,
Right.
thinking, okay, I'll like the comforts of
Yeah.
the newer one.
Yeah.
But even the 57, I actually put cats. So
Yeah,
I
put cats on
I
it so
put high
it cuts
flow
the smell
cats
down
on
for
it,
your
so-
wife. Yeah.
Yeah, and so
I get
now it's
that.
like, see, it doesn't smell. Well, then she goes out in the garage and goes, I still smell fuel. I go, yeah, it's because it doesn't have any evaporative emissions. So you can still smell the fuel. So, you know,
Yeah.
but you can't smell
It's
the
much
hydrocarbons.
better though.
So,
Right.
so much better.
Yeah.
So Mary was telling us about her favorite collection that's come through here. What's been your favorite collection to go after, to curate, so far?
Yeah, I think the Porsches were pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
the 75 years of Porsche. That was
That is
that was
cool.
Yeah,
was
you missed that
fun.
one.
I
They had a
haven't seen
Carrera
it, but I've heard
GT in
that's
here,
super
and
cool.
Yeah.
it was awesome.
There were
Yeah.
two of them, kind of my favorite cars growing up. So I got in a 959 in here, and I
Yeah.
got a Carrera GT
Yeah.
in here, and so that was pretty.
So one of
cool.
the first video games I ever played was Need for Speed Porsche Unleashed,
Yep.
and it was all Porsches. And it's just so crazy thinking back on that. And then the 75 years of Porsche, and I was thinking about all the cool cars I drove in that game,
Yeah.
and like get to see them all in person would have been awesome. I mean,
Yeah,
that
it
would've
was
just been
pretty
amazing.
So my son's a big
You know?
Porsche fan, right? And I found out that it was coming here, and so I was like, "Hey, we're going up to Savoy,"
Yeah.
and he didn't know that they were up here. We turned the corner because it was in this room over here. We
Yeah.
turned the corner, and he saw him, and his eyes
Oh,
just
just
lit up, man.
man.
Oh yeah.
And he'd never seen a Carrera GT in person before,
Yeah.
right? And so it was pretty special. And then he also likes the original with the big whale tail on the back
oh, yeah,
and
the
all that.
930
Yeah,
turbo. Yeah, that
he was a big fan.
that was great. It's funny because I saw that Carrera GT back before I worked here. I worked at another job,
Yeah.
and I was over in Germany, and I was at Stuttgart.
Oh yeah,
And they had two Carrera GTs sitting out in front of this building. They
Yeah.
were new. I don't know if they were test driving them or what. And so this was
That's
back
awesome.
in whatever 2003 or 4, whenever I was over there.
Right.
yeah.
And I'm like, what the heck are these cars?
Yeah, I've
You
never
know,
heard
and
of
I had
this.
to go
Yeah,
look
what
it up.
is this?
Yeah.
And I was like, I was in love after that.
Oh, I
I'm like,
bet,
oh my
yeah.
gosh, these
Wow.
are so cool.
So do you go to does your job take you outside of Georgia, obviously, and do you go to places to try and convince people to bring their cars here?
So, we have a lot of help. There's a gentleman named Ken Gross, and
Okay.
Ken Gross is an automotive writer
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
judge in Pebble Beach and
Yeah.
Amelia
Okay.
and all that. And so he's a big help for helping curate.
Okay.
But yes, we do. So we go to different shows like Amelia. That's where actually I was able to borrow an F40 and a 959 from a
Yeah.
gentleman that I met at Amelia, and just talking
Right.
to him and showing him the museum.
Right.
And through him, that's how I ended up getting a Carrera GT and a Z16 and, those kind of
So it just kind of
cars.
builds.
Yeah.
And
So people,
sometimes it is who you know, right?
Right.
it is,
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's awesome, man.
And so Ken, who helps curate for like Pebble Beach and Amelia and that, he knows who has what cars.
Right.
And so I'll work with him to kind of come up with a theme.
Yeah.
And then I go, okay, who has those cars?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And so he
super
goes, "Well, I
cool,
think
man.
So I think this guy
So
has
it's
that
it's
kind of
it's
car."
a solid networking
Right, yeah.
thing, you know.
It's
I mean,
all
like you're
networking.
continually
Yeah.
networking. I mean, that's
It-
awesome.
Yeah, it's the same with like Wayne, where
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I got these guys who, and then sometimes they'll give you ideas like, well, I'll go, hey, did you ever think about doing this? I was like,
Yeah.
well, the people? Yeah. Okay, well, let's do it then.
So, one question for you: do you see any of the cars as like investment cars? Like, it's like this is a car we're buying it because of the investment opportunity of it, or is it
Yeah,
just
not-
passion?
Yeah, not normally.
Not normally. That's
not,
awesome.
Not for
man.
us.
Yeah.
Right.
It's more
Yeah.
of, do we think that people are going to enjoy it and
Right.
have memories and that
That's
kind of
awesome,
thing.
man.
So, yeah, so really not an investment because
Very cool.
we probably aren't going to sell too many.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's
So-
what we were talking about earlier is, they don't really want to sell the cars. They just
Right.
want to add to the collection, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's awesome.
Yeah,
man.
and we're a 501c3, so,
Okay.
we're
so
nonprofit.
Nonprofit,
Right.
yeah.
And so, we take donations, and we've received probably, I don't know, 15 to 20 cars have been donated
Oh, wow.
Wow.
to
Yeah.
the museum.
Have you ever had
So-
one that was donated and you're like, man, I wish this one wasn't here? Probably not, right? I mean, I'm
No,
just curious.
we always appreciate, but we do go through a collections committee.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
and
okay. So it's got to meet
so-
Yeah.
the criteria.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
Yeah, so you
That's
hope that the
awesome,
car
man.
that they want to donate is one
Interesting.
that you
That's
would
super
want
cool,
to
man.
have as part of your
Absolutely.
collection.
So out of all the collection at Savoy, out of all the cars you have here, if they said, Bruce, you can take one home today. You can take it home. You can have it.
It's
Which
your
one's
car.
it going to be?
Out of our cars,
He's a car guy. You can
Yep.
tell because he's like
Wheels-
running through
the
them all.
wheels
And
are
he's like,
turning.
man, there's like 100 of them.
it'd
I'd
probably
take right
be because this was kind of one when I was growing up. It'd probably be the 67 427 435 horse convertible.
Oh,
we
yeah.
have
now.
back
Nice.
there.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see it.
Yeah, it's maroon
awesome.
with black.
Yeah.
with the
nice.
Stinger
All right.
hood and
Yeah.
4-speed. It's just
That's cool, man.
it's growing up I always kind of wanted.
So did you
Yeah.
grow up around cars?
Yeah. So I mean, I worked at Delphi and Bosch for 30
Oh, okay.
plus years. I was
awesome.
actually releasing cars into production.
Nice.
And then the last 5 years, Bosch, I was responsible for their engineering facilities up in Farmington Hills, Michigan. So engine dynos, chassis
So
dynos, components
car
testing.
guy through and through.
Yeah.
Then.
So,
yeah, really.
Quite the
So
history.
what
man.
brought you from Bosch? I mean, that's a pretty well-known company, right? What
Yeah.
brought you from Bosch to Savoy?
Yeah, so I was at the age where I could get close to retiring.
Yeah.
And so I was doing all that, and it was fun.
Yeah,
I enjoyed
Absolutely.
doing that. And so McRae, who is friends with my wife,
Okay.
she showed us, the building that they were doing here.
Yeah.
And so this was in process. We'd actually met him at Amelia Island. We talked to him, and she told us about they were doing this museum, and I talked to her a little bit about it and said, if you had a job
Yeah.
down there, I might be able to retire and then
come
take
come
that
down here in
job.
Georgia
Yeah.
and hang out.
And
That's
so
awesome.
she goes, yeah, I think I can find something for you. So, she did. And so for the first, it's funny because when we talked, they said, yeah, you can't be curator because you don't have any museum background
Right.
experience. I'm like,
Right.
Right.
yeah, okay. Yeah, no
Yeah.
problem. I'll do whatever. And she said, well, you can be the events person,
Okay.
And I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
And so I did that for the first 3 months. And then all of a sudden they came to me and said, do you want to be the curator? And I go, oh, why? Was I so bad at the events thing?
Am I getting fired?
Right.
Now I'm getting a new position.
This is a
Wait, or-
way of moving me around.
But then they laughed and I said, no, I thought maybe you'd do better as a curator.
Oh, that's awesome. Man.
So yeah, so that's
Very
how
cool.
And so now I've been doing that for a little over almost 2.5 years.
That is
So
so
can
cool,
you give
man.
us a preview of what is yet to come at Savoy?
Yeah, so we got some really cool stuff coming. So
Okay.
we are working with the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum, if
Oh,
you're
that's
familiar with
gonna be
those guys.
cool.
Yes.
Yep. And
Yeah.
so they're currently renovating.
Right.
And so I knew that. And so I talked to Jason last year or so, Jason Van Sickle, who's their VP over there.
Okay.
And he said, yeah, you can borrow cars while we're shut down. And so we
Nice.
have 2 separate exhibits coming with them. So we have kind of special cars that may not have raced at Indy that they think are special.
Right.
Okay.
So we got those coming in. And then
That's
we have
awesome.
winners through the decades.
Oh, wow.
coming.
That's
Oh,
pretty cool.
nice.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
That's
so
awesome.
we'll actually get the Wasp here.
Nice.
Oh, that's super
That
cool.
is super
You know,
cool.
Yeah.
Man.
So
Wow.
yeah,
It's gonna be some cool stuff
we
coming
got
through.
that. We got
Yeah.
Moonshiners exhibit coming. We're going to be
Okay.
doing a
How cool is
Supercars
that?
exhibit.
When's the
this year.
Supercar
That's awesome.
exhibit?
So that one starts in November.
That's pretty
Okay.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then geez, what else do we got going on there?
The
I don't
list
know.
is long.
Yeah, it's
Right.
like one every
That's
month.
awesome.
So
Very
Yeah.
cool.
so check our website. You
Absolutely.
can
Yeah.
kind of see.
Yeah.
I mean,
what we
I
got.
mean, from a curator's perspective, that's a pretty active.
It's
you
very
know,
active.
Yeah.
So you can imagine logistically bringing
Yeah.
cars every
Yeah.
month coming and going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then having to write the reader boards or explain what each of the cars
Yeah.
are, and then
That's wild, man.
So
So-
do you guys write? You write each one of these each time?
yes.
Wow.
So
Okay.
Mary,
Mhm.
Yep.
as you met Mary,
Yeah.
she helps us do those. So,
Wow.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
she's got an English background.
Right.
She was saying that earlier.
Yeah,
so
yeah. I
very
think she
cool.
just got her master's.
She did, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
man.
isn't that
That
exciting?
is so
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
Well, I'm not shocked because I tell you, you can pretty much pick a car out of here at random and ask Mary about it. And she can tell
She
you all
knows
about it.
Yeah,
She
she's also
knows it.
our lead docent.
Wow.
So what happens is, so we have one day we're shut down on a Mondays.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like you guys are here.
Mhm.
And we use that day to swap out an exhibit.
Okay.
And then on Tuesday morning, the docents will come in, and Mary will then train them
Oh,
on the
wow.
cars.
So that they know exactly what
Yeah.
they're talking about.
and,
each
and so
car.
she'll also provide them like Word documents on each of the cars
awesome.
beforehand.
So is there a volunteer staff that does
There
that?
is,
The
yeah.
docents?
There's
Yeah.
37 volunteers. that we
Wow,
have.
that
Yeah.
is so cool,
Yeah.
man.
So yeah,
And they're all enthusiasts.
exactly
Yeah.
all car enthusiasts.
Absolutely.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
That is super cool, man.
Mhm.
Well, thank you so much for today. I mean, this whole experience has been amazing. This is John's
Absolutely.
first time
This
here.
is my first time ever coming to the museum.
All right.
and
Well, we'll have to
wow.
go show you the
Wow, y'all-
storage.
I can't
facility.
wait.
Yeah. And I mean, it's been so great. And thank you so much for
Oh.
for having us here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
Happy to
great
do
talking
it.
to you. Thanks, Bruce.
Yep.
And everybody, this is Two Car Guys. Thank y'all for coming in and seeing us, and see us on the next one. This has been awesome.
See you guys.
Right.